What's going on, guys? Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the brand new Adidas Glitch The Adidas Glitch 2.0, the second generation of the boot that so many people want but are simply unable to purchase because you can only get this through the Adidas Glitch app, which only ships to either Germany, France, or England. So if you're not in any of those places, you cannot order these brand new. So if you really must have them, you'd have to go on eBay and buy them from somebody reselling them, where there are also plenty of counterfeit products, and it's not really an ideal situation, again, if you're outside of those three places. However, the second generation of the Adidas Glitch is here. Adidas was nice enough to send out some for review. Thank you to them. That's not going to change my opinion on these in any way at all, which you guys will see in just a second. But essentially what we're going to do in this video is go over all the details of what the Glitch 2.0 is about. I'll talk about the system as a whole, where you have two interchangeable pieces. We'll talk about what's new. We'll talk about what's good, what's bad, how much these weigh, which will be pretty surprising, as well as how they fit and feel on feet. So if you are interested in learning more, please stick around, watch the entire video. And like I said, if you want a pair, live in France, Germany, or England. If you guys do end up enjoying the video, don't forget to support it with a like. And if you're new here watching for the first time, don't forget to hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. Let's start with how much these actually cost, because most people aren't familiar with it because they can't even download the Glitch app to see how much they cost in the first place. But the Adidas Glitch must be purchased initially as a starter pack, at least as far as I understood. And that starter pack is going to run you 250 pounds. The equivalent right now converted to US dollars is about 330 bucks, making these quite expensive. But you don't just get one pair, you get the inner shoe, which is basically this internal piece you have right here. I'll separate them right now so you can see exactly what that is. So you get to pick one of these, either a low or a mid. This is the low cut variation if you're wondering. And you get two outer skins with your starter pack, which is basically the upper of the shoe as well as the sole plate and stud pattern. So two of these and one of these for 330 bucks. Now $330 is a lot of money, but the way the Glitch system works, where you're changing the entire outer shell of the shoe and you get two for that $330 starter pack, it's kind of like two pairs for 330 rather than one, which is not such a bad deal. Oh, included with your starter pack is three separate boxes, one for each of the outer skins and one for the inner shoe. They're these plastic clear boxes that have very sharp edges when you're opening them up, so please be aware of that. And you can see it does have the Glitch branding. It's cool looking, but honestly kind of annoying to actually open up. But it's nice that they do include some pretty premium packaging. You also get this little thing with your receipt inside, some words right there that you can read if you want to read them, and some instructions on how to put together and put on your Adidas Glitch boots. And you get a Glitch branded string bag, which is the same as what we got with the original variation of the Glitch. And in all honesty, considering the wild designs of the Adidas Glitch, it's a pretty ordinary string bag. So my string bag rating would be a 6 out of 9.9. Next, let's talk about performance and tech specs, because there have been some significant changes from Glitch 1.0 to Glitch 2.0, although the overall experience I don't think is that different. It's kind of like the Lego of football boots, where you have two separate pieces that come together to create what is now called the Glitch 2.0. Those two pieces include the inner shoe, which makes up the lining, obviously, because this is laceless. This is gonna have all of your lockdown as well with this brand new Tech Fit system over top of this elasticated sock material. You have an external heel counter that ends up being internal once it slides into the outer skin. You also have the sole plate, these little pegs to lock into the outer skin piece. And then you also have the insole as well as the heel liner included in this inner shoe piece that is available as a low or a mid cut, pretty much just extended material. This of course being the low cut variation, which is probably the one that I would personally go for. Then you have the outer skin, which is going to vary from colorway to colorway. The one I have right here is the world skin color that is extremely bright, extremely vibrant, and quite frankly a little bit obnoxious, but we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. The thing about the glitch skins though is that you can buy these individually. Same goes for the inner shoes once you've purchased your starter pack. So that's going to be relatively inexpensive to buy them individually, at least less than buying a brand new top-end boot, what that would normally cost. But there is going to be variation from skin to skin. So this world skin review won't necessarily apply to a glitch skin that's going to come out in a month from now, where they use a completely different material. But the overall construction remains the same. You can see that it kind of has this V shape to the cut of the material itself, as far as where you have a transition point from the material in the forefoot to the material through the midfoot, and that has changed from the original Glitch 1.0. They've also kind of modified the cut around the heel, ankle, top of the foot area that actually does make some significant improvements that we'll talk about in just a second. This glitch skin happens to be a thin synthetic material, but again, that synthetic as well as even the finish on the upper will vary from colorway to colorway. The shoe as itself, or the outer skin I should say, really has no structure to it. The sole plate part of this shoe is coming from the inner shoe piece. That's the plastic on the underside, so that's where all of your rigidity and structure is going to come from. But the outer skin does house the stud pattern, which you can get as FGAG like I have right here, or as soft ground, which is a mixed sole soft ground where the studs aren't actually removable, which is kind of interesting, but considering that the outer skins are interchangeable, they can kind of get away with that, and it's not such a bad concept. The overall design, as you can see, is kind of a lot like the X17 Plus Pure Speed that just got replaced by the new X18s that are really nothing like this, but that's basically what makes up the Glitch 2.0. Now, back when I reviewed the original Adidas Glitch, my #1 complaint, and I still stand by this complaint, is that they are extremely difficult to put on. I didn't really mind wearing the boots, but the struggle of putting them on was just not worth the effort. It shouldn't be difficult to put on a pair of football boots. And a lot of people argued with me that I was just being too harsh and too critical of something that I just clearly didn't know how to do properly. But with the Glitch 2.0, I have been proven right, because the #1 thing, the very first thing that Adidas lists in their tech specs for the new Glitch 2.0 that they've improved is that they are now easier to put on, which I can 100% confirm is true. Although, out of all the laceless boots that are out there right now, pretty much all from Adidas, this is still the most difficult one to put on, although it's a lot easier than the first Glitch. As far as touch is concerned, with the upper combined with the inner shoe, it's relatively thin, but it does have that padded feel to it. This lining material is fully elasticated, kind of knitted material. It feels like a sock. So there is some padding to that, even though it's not particularly spongy, but that in combination with the extra layer of material that you have here with the outer skin does make for what I would consider to be kind of a barefoot feel, but it definitely has some extra padding to them. Honestly, I feel like the X17 Plus Pure Speed felt thinner than the Glitch 2.0 does. The synthetic material though, it's soft, it's flexible. I really didn't have any issues with stiffness with this particular shoe, although it definitely is stiffer than what you would find again from that X17 Plus Pure Speed that I really like to compare this to, because I feel like they are so similar. And with this particular outer skin, again, this will vary from colorway to colorway, I felt like the upper itself, while it does seem to have a little bit of texture to it, it's very, very slick on the ball, which isn't a bad thing. It's really down to personal preference ultimately. I didn't mind that, but if you don't like a super slick feel, maybe this upper in particular, not a great choice for you. But overall, I didn't mind the touch that these had on offer. It just wasn't a true barefoot feel. It wasn't really overly padded. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. Not amazing by any means, but certainly passable as a top-end product. Next, I want to talk about fit, lockdown, and overall comfort, which we will get into in a little bit more detail during the on-feet portion of the video, but they have made actual improvements to the outer skin and the inner shoe for the sake of these several elements. And I definitely think they've made improvements, starting with the inner shoe. Now it features a 4-way stretch material here, kind of a knitted material that's just elasticated. I wouldn't say that it's 4-way stretch. It seems to stretch in pretty much any direction, but it's reinforced with a brand new Tech Fit layout, which is basically fused over top that kind of webs across your foot to hold everything in place. Now, in all honesty, this plastic is not very strong. You can stretch the plastic, as you can see. That's not providing a ton of reinforcement. What won't stretch as well though is the stitching that runs basically through the middle. On the old pair, it would run pretty much all the way up. On the new version, it runs up here and then cuts across kind of like in the shape of a Y, which means that you have a lot more stretch in this area of the collar, which is why these are easier, partially why they're easier to put on and take off. And the overall shape of the inner shoe does seem to be a little bit different to me. This fits a lot more naturally. I felt like the original Glitch was slightly awkward in regards to its overall shape. This feels really good. Basically a stretchy sock lining the inside of the shoe. And of course, this houses the sole plate and stuff, which we'll get to in just a second. And then of course you have the outer skin, which is basically this firmer synthetic material that really doesn't have a lot of stretch to it. So that in combination with the inner shoe makes for pretty decent lockdown. Now, when you're talking about lockdown with laceless boots, heel slippage is very much something that's worth talking about, and this features pretty much the same design as what we saw on the previous generation X line, with of course the S-curve heel. If you go for the mid-cut variation, it's a little bit different. I definitely think that this is the one to go for though, both in regards to looks, comfort, as well as just ease of putting these on. I think partially why I think these are a little bit easier to put on than the original Glitches is because they're low rather than mid. Mid, I just think makes things a little bit more difficult. Lockdown, I would assume, is going to be very similar, but you can see it does have a synthetic suede lining here at the back with a decent amount of padding. It's not heavily padded at all, but I did find that the fit in the heel was slightly more shallow than I would like it to be, kind of the same as the original Glitch. So in regards to fit and lockdown for being a laceless boot, it's not bad, but it's definitely not amazing either. One weird quirk worth noting that was also an issue with the Glitch 1.0 is that because you have two interchangeable pieces, it tends to lock in moisture. So obviously when you play in them and your feet sweat a little bit, that sweat generally gets absorbed into the material of the inner shoe piece. And for some reason, if you don't detach the two, the moisture just stays in there. They take longer to dry than they should for synthetic boots. So what I would personally recommend is pulling out the inner shoe after you're done using them and letting the two dry separately. They'll dry a lot more quickly that way, and it's always better if the shoes aren't wet for extended periods of time. Something that a lot of people don't realize is that these shoes still have removable insoles. So if you remove the insole from the inner shoe, you're going to find this, which is basically the lightweight insoles that we've been getting with a lot of Adidas speed boot products over the last several years. Mesh liner on top, some perforations, and a single layer of this black foam. Nothing too fancy, but it does get the job done. And if you did want to replace the insoles with something else, you definitely can do that, although be aware, because of the shallower fit in the heel, if you put something more bulky than this, the fit will suffer, the lockdown will suffer, and they just won't be quite as comfortable. Moving on to the base of the shoe, this is basically it. This is 90% of your sole plate. The outer skin does have a little bit of a plate base in the forefoot just for the sake of extra reinforcement, but your sole plate is entirely housed in the inner shoe, or at the base of the inner shoe. And you can see there are some instructions here on how to attach, and it does warn you to make sure that the pegs are in the hole. These pegs are not studs. Some people think it's a good idea to wear these without the outer skin. I have no clue why you would want to do that, but basically these pegs connect the outer skin and the inner shoe together. And you're still gonna find some slippage in the forefoot. You can see I've been wearing these and it does still slide around a little bit, but to avoid slippage, they do put some rubber right here, basically a pad to contact the base of the outer skin to prevent that slippage. And it is relatively thick and relatively sticky. And you'll notice on the inside of the outer skin, you're gonna find these little pegs, 4 in the heel, 2 at the base of the forefoot, for that inner shoe to connect to the outer skin. And honestly, while it does clearly move a little bit just based on the scuffing here on the outside of the forefoot, it's not something that you can feel at all when the two pieces are together and on your feet. You're also going to notice that the inner shoe does incorporate a heel counter. That's there for the sake of structure, because on the outer skin, there is no structure here. It literally is just a skin of synthetic material. But on the back, they include that external heel counter and even a little bit of rubber right here, again, for the sake of this not sliding out from the back of the outer skin. It keeps everything securely locked in place, which would be a concern of mine with this system, but it seems to work quite well. Which brings us to the FG-AG stud pattern. That is pretty much the exact same stud pattern layout as what we saw on the X16 and X17 generations from the Adidas brand. The same layout you'll find across the entire brand as well, with the 3 studs on the outside of the forefoot, 1 support stud in the middle, 4 studs under the heel. It's a decent stud pattern, and if you've worn an Adidas shoe in the last several years, you kind of know what to expect here. Which brings us to the weight, and in a size 9.5 US, the Adidas Glitch 2.0 with this particular outer skin and this particular low cut inner shoe, if you had the mid cut inner shoe, that would obviously add a little bit more weight because it is more material. These guys weigh in at 10.6 ounces. This weighs as much as this. Wrap your head around that. Now, I know I've said on this channel that I don't really care too much about how much shoes weigh, but when you're talking about the Glitch 2.0, something that I think most people would view as a speed boot, being that it is kind of modeled after the speed boot line, just with a modular design, most people would expect them to be relatively light, and that is not actually the case at all. I'm not one to complain about boots being heavy, and I definitely didn't think that the Glitch 2.0 was so heavy where I couldn't play in them, but it's definitely noticeable for this style of shoe based on how they feel on the ball, that they're just not as light as pretty much any other top-end shoe out there right now. So if you're looking for that lightweight feel, these simply do not have it. The fact that they weigh as much as Copa Mundials is very surprising to me. It's not something that has gone up since the original Glitch 1.0, by the way. Those also weighed about the same 10.5 to 11 ounces, depending on which variation you had. But again, for this style of shoe, obviously most people don't know this, but if they did, would this be as popular as it is? I'm not so sure. And then there's the way that these look, which you may have noticed that this colorway is kind of flashy. This particular one is called the World Skin, and it is number 46. I believe they associate a name and a number to every single outer skin that comes out. This one in particular stands out really, really well. I'm not one to wear really flashy shoes, but because I do product reviews on all kinds of different boots on a regular basis, I'm always wearing new stuff. Most of the guys I play with are pretty used to that and they don't ask about it anymore, but this is a boot in this colorway that got comments out of everybody. Some people loved it, some people absolutely hated it, and it's definitely out there, it's definitely different. Obviously with the Glitch system, you have all kinds of different outer skins to choose from, which is nice because there's lots of variety as far as colors are concerned. But if you're not into really flashy patterns and out there colors, maybe the Glitch isn't for you because they don't really release too many subtle ones, at least based on what I've seen. So if you're into flashy stuff, you're probably really gonna like these. If you're not, they're probably not for you. I can't say that this would be my first pick as far as colorways go, but let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. So as far as putting them on is concerned, because like I mentioned earlier, Adidas did say in their own tech specs that they are easier to put on. I can confirm this. You have two ways to actually put them on. You can put the inner shoe on and then slide it into the outer skin. I find that to be the more difficult way of doing things, so I pretty much never do it that way. I put the shoe together entirely, and I put them on as I would any other laceless boot. I like to grab the front piece, and then they kind of modified the pull tab at the back, and when you have the low-cut variation with the S-curve heel, I grab both of those elements, kind of pull the opening as big as I can, slide my foot in initially, kind of turn it over, and then again, I just support the back so I'm not crushing the heel counter, and then just kind of slide my foot in. It's more difficult to put on than any of the other laceless boots from Adidas, but as you can see, a lot easier than the previous generation Adidas Glitch. Normally it would take me like a minute per shoe to put them on. These slide on quite nicely. On feet, I actually think that the Glitch 2.0 fits pretty well. Is it the best fitting shoe in the Adidas lineup right now? Absolutely not. But as far as laceless boots go, honestly, I think this is one of the better ones in regards to overall quality of fit, as well as just lockdown and general comfort. I really didn't feel like there was too much to break in here. A little bit stiff through the midfoot, but that's gonna vary from person to person, mainly based on the shape of your foot. And if I did have one complaint in regards to the fit, is that the heel is a little bit shallower than I would like it to be, but not to the point where it's detrimental to the comfort. I still found that these were pretty comfortable out of the box. Just a little bit of getting used to is pretty much what you're gonna have to deal with. But blisters or any kind of significant discomfort is not something that I experienced at all. Definitely a little bit stiffer. I would kind of compare this directly to the X17 Plus Pure Speed because it is kind of the same overall design, but obviously with two interchangeable elements. They don't feel quite as good as those. They feel bulkier, they feel thicker, they feel more padded, and the fit just isn't quite as good because you don't have the adjustability of a lacing system. So if you're asking me what's better between this and the X17 X17 Plus Pure Speed. I just think that Pure Speed is better in almost every single way, especially when you're talking about the weight. And that is something that you do notice on feet with this shoe. It's not particularly light for something that I think most people would kind of put in the category of being a speed boot. As far as width and sizing is concerned, width-wise, I'd say that these are wide enough for most people, although because of the fairly small, I guess, opening to the shoe, getting them on if you did have really wide feet might be a little bit of an issue for you. But as long as you don't have excessively wide feet, I think these will fit most people quite comfortably. But again, they're also laceless, so adjustability is something that you just don't have. So it really is one of those shoes you kind of have to try on, which is a bummer based on how you have to order them. There is really no way to try them on first. And then as far as sizing is concerned, they run true to size just like all of the other Adidas boots. My feet are about a 9.25. I'm wearing these in a size 9.5 US, and fit in the length is pretty much perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size for the best possible fit. So in conclusion, I definitely think that the Glitch 2.0 is better than the original Glitch 1.0. The fact that they are easier to put on and seem to fit better than the original Glitch is a major improvement. But everything else aside from that seems to feel pretty similar to me. The uppers, again, will vary from upper to upper based on what material they use. This basic synthetic upper is just that, kind of basic. I still don't love the fit in the heel. It's still not the most responsive locked-in shoe because of the laceless system, although I would say the lockdown is above average as far as laceless boots from the Adidas brand right now. The stud pattern is just okay, but the weight of the shoe to me is something that really hurts this particular product, because we have had the X16 Plus and the X17 Plus that is basically the same shoe but 3 ounces lighter, which makes the world of difference in regards to the feel and experience that the shoe is going to have on offer. Not to mention, I think that's just a better performing product in general. I think the value of the whole Glitch system with interchangeable parts and being able to buy outer skins and inner shoes rather than buying the entire starter pack again, there's definite value to that. And even the starter pack itself, given that you technically get 2 pairs for 1, isn't a bad value in itself. It's just one of those shoes that, yes, it's good enough, but would it be my #1 pick if I was on the market for a top-end pair of boots? Probably not. This is one of those shoes that will appeal to certain people, but probably isn't the best choice for most. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. But for me personally, I would personally wear other Adidas products over the Glitch 2.0. And that's it for this one, guys. If you have any questions at all, feel free to ask them down below in the comments, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to support it with a like. And if you're new here watching for the first time, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. Other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.